Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
It's funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Okay. Let's hear about this part.
Yeah, so I noticed that there is a part that comes up and it only surfaces when I'm in a relationship or dating someone. And it's definitely a protector part that just sets up these, I want to say these thoughts that are kind of like booby traps for me to really scan the person that I'm dating for safety. So it'll come up with things like, well, if the person, goes out to bars and clubs, they're a bad person and they're not meant for me. It'll come up with these rules that I call booby traps that once they cross them, it's well, this person's no longer safe. And I know it's protective, but it's really been surfacing lately. And I just wanted to dive in a little bit into it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. See what happens.
Yeah.
So when it comes up, where do you notice it?
It's very much in the anterior, so the front of my body. And it feels like a very tense or intense rigidity. It feels very and almost a little bit fight or flight. So there's a big fear component to it. So that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And as you notice it there, how do you feel towards it?
I have compassion towards it. I wish that it didn't kind of react this way whenever, I tried to welcome someone new into my life. Yeah. I feel bad that it reacts this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're feeling curious enough to have conversation with it?
Yeah.
Okay. So try to send it that message that you're feeling curious. Invite it to speak with you.
Okay.
And ask what it wants you to know.
For some reason, this part feels angry, it feels angry and scared, a lot of negative emotions. And it does, for some reason, kind of feel like that anger is even directed towards myself, towards me.
Yeah.
Let me see as far as what it wants to. tell me or anything. It's interesting. It's telling me that it wants to be right. Like it wants to be right and ground, like supported. Like it feels like it's the way that it views reality or views things is correct. It's very rigid in its thinking.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's feeling like it has the right perspective, and that you or other parts aren't on board with it and not supporting it.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel towards it as you learn that about it?
I can definitely see why it feels that way. You know, I spend a lot of time trying to like avoid this part or not letting it run the show or being against it or disliking myself when it comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So see if you can just send it that message of understanding why it feels that it's been not supported.
Okay.
And you could ask just what else it wants you to know, or you could ask it what it's afraid will happen if it doesn't get your attention that way.
Okay. Like it feels like this part has something that it wants me to know. It feels like even though it feels like it's right, it's kind of like I think it yearns for the support because it feels like because I'm constantly against it, it feels like almost like I'm gaslighting that part. Like it's confused as to whether um its reality that it thinks is real is actually true. So like all these rules that it makes up, it thinks that they're legitimate, but because I'm constantly trying to shut this part down and fighting against it, and I don't like, there's constantly like an at odds feeling with it.
Yeah.
It feels like it just needs my support to ground its reality. Like it's confused about even itself.
Yeah. Okay. And is that coming from the part itself? It's saying that?
Like it's weird because like when I dial into the part, that's what I'm kind of getting, but I don't know if that's a blend or if maybe those are my feelings.
Yeah, that was my concern
Yeah.
is it like you were saying, oh, this part's confused, or is it saying that? So you can just kind of ask it.
Okay.
If it feels like it's confused, or if it feels like it has,
Okay.
yeah.
This part feels like I'm confused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So without going into who's right, and I'm sure there's a lot of parts, in that system that have different points of view.
Yeah.
Try just sitting with that kind of acknowledging that tension, that there's tension, and that it's hard. It's a hard situation to be in for parts.
Okay. I feel it softening a little bit with me letting it know that, like acknowledging that there is tension between us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all have good intentions. So right or wrong, it's kind of like moot. We're wanting to just understand what its intention is and make sure that you're able to listen to it and respond to it.
Yeah.
So you said you know that it's got some fear around this. You know that it's in a protective role.
Yeah.
Are you able to show it appreciation for its intention?
Yeah. Let me try. It feels it's interesting. This part is reacting like it's very new to receive appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And is it okay with you to just stay with that for a moment?
Yeah.
And just see how that works for it, and if there's anything else that comes up there.
Yeah. Its needs seem to, when I sit with it and, give it appreciation, its needs seem to change from wanting to be told that it's right, knowing that it's right, protecting me, to more being like, I don't think that I get the sense that it doesn't like being this rigid,
Mm-hmm.
and, just opening up to that idea that it doesn't want to be or like being this rigid, and like upholding these like boundaries and having this aggression with holding it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What would it rather be doing?
It's funny. This part's held so much like aggressively like strong boundaries that like just trying to let those go, it does feel kind of like lost. Like, who am I then? And I'm trying to hone in on who or what it would rather do.
Yeah. It has that energy, it has that attention. Would it rather use that in another way? Would it like to just relax? If it could have things any way that it wanted.
It definitely would prefer for like it wants me to, I guess, kind of like go over the boundaries with it, because it doesn't want to like continue to uphold something that it feels alone in believing in.
Mm-hmm.
So it does want, okay, so that's something actionable that I could do, actually, is going over those rules and boundaries that it has.
Okay, so it's saying like it has these rules and boundaries, and until they're kind of heard and validated, or at least discussed with you, it doesn't feel like it can just let them go.
Yeah.
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 And I love that you said that's actionable. I had a very similar something of happened with me in a similar part of, it had a lot, it had a laundry list of things, and it was like, that was kind of the solution was, well, we need to sit down and talk about these. And, it had just felt ignored for so long.
Yeah.
And when it shares that with you, like, how do you feel towards that? Like, how do you react? Does that sound like something you're up for, or is that something you would do begrudgingly or not at all? Like, how does that sound to you?
I definitely, it's surprising that I haven't had this idea to do this on my own before. So it sounds like something I'd like to definitely explore with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And what would it need going forward? Like, is there a specific way? Are there other specifics around doing that that it would like to share with you?
Yeah. So it's very like all of its rules are based off of protection, and it's really questioning kind of like it makes rules that cage me in but also don't allow me to receive love the way that I want.
Yeah.
So in both in and out or closed off, and so it's kind of asking in a way like to reframe what I believe like love is, what it's supposed to be, because that's like it's confused by the definition of love itself. Like without this protection, what is love? Like what does it look like without the rules? Like
Yeah. Those are really
it
big.
has big questions. Yeah.
Those are big things to sit and meditate on for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I get the impression it's a very like regimented part. So I believe it wants me to write everything down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you feel good about doing that with it?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Is there anything else that part wants to share with you or ask of you?
I think that this part's very like, it's almost like it wants me to get to know it. It doesn't feel like I've made any effort to really like understand it or like where it came from, why it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll just make a kind of suggestion and you see if this resonates at all. Does it feel like, and this might just be a question for the part, does it feel like there's another part of you that's at odds with this part specifically? Like if this part is saying, no, hold on, stop, is there another part of you that's saying, yes, that would also be a part?
That's the opposite of its rules, basically.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that. Let me see. It feels like in relationships, this is a very like dominating part. I'm not sensing that there's another part like going against its rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm the only one. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, I would just keep an eye out for it. Only, the tendency is for the protectors to have a kind of polarity. So that's just something I would keep an eye out for, and make sure that you are not. Again, this is all just speculative, but to make sure that you're not blended with the yes part, and kind of calling that self, and I don't know.
I might be. I want to see if I am blended with that yes part. I think that might be. Let me see.
You talked about wanting to receive love in a certain way.
I think there is another part, but it felt very like blended with me. Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder why parts blend with us so much. Like, and there's some that just really blend.
Yeah, they got a job to do.
Yeah. So this part seems much more like the part that I thought was me, but it's blending with me that goes against these beliefs. It's much
Mhm.
more graceful in nature, much more like um kind of like subdued. It's really not a pushy part, but it's I call it like the hippie flower part. Like
Mhm.
just very
Yeah.
feminine, very graceful, very like, is against that rigidity, but doesn't really do anything to fight against it.
Yeah, it's more open, and again, it's kind of saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
One way that you could, identify, because I mean, again, I've had the same kind of experience where I'm sort of blending with the part that's saying yes, because I'm saying, well, yeah, yes is towards love, and love is a good thing. And um so looking at like what is self, self is courage, confidence, curiosity, calm, connected.
Mm.
And so you can kind of compare those to the whatever
The
part
parts.
you're, whatever you're feeling.
This part feels closer to that, but I I can definitely tell she's a part because she seems kind of like she I think a part of her feels powerless in the situation.
Yeah.
So I think that's what distinguishes her as like self and part. So when I like
Yeah.
sense into her, yeah.
Is that something you want to explore?
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you notice this part around your body or in your body?
So this part's very much in my chest and my head. It's not any type of pressure. It's more just like a presence, like a uh, very, 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 very slight tension. Um, yeah, I would say, and a little bit of my gut,
Mm-hmm.
also in the front of my body.
And what message does it have for you? Or does it want to tell you about itself?
Mm. So this part recognizes that like I it it knows that it's like an under resourced part of me, meaning like I didn't even realize this part existed until now. Like it's not
Mhm.
it knows that I'm not very familiar with it, and it seems to be glad that I'm giving it some attention now.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has the floor.
Yeah. It can tell that like I think this part is saying some positive or thinking some positive aspects of me, kind of like happy that I'm kind of working to like kind of just clarify or pacify the rigid part that's been kind of ruling me whenever I'm in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels happy that I'm doing something
Yeah.
or at least working to get to know it and you know.
And how about the powerlessness? What's that? What's that about? Where's that? What's
The,
behind that?
it's not a pushy part, so it's very passive. It's very pacifist. It's not pushy, and it's the complete opposite of the very pushy, uh, regimented, rigid rule maker part.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it just senses that it doesn't have a lot of like power over me, like or at least it doesn't try to exert any, like it doesn't push its agenda. which is basically not following the rules, following my heart, allowing love in, just like the kind of
Mhm.
hippie mentality.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I mean by powerless.
Yeah, it
It's
just
almost
doesn't
like
feel like it has.
accepted. Yeah.
And what is its fear if it doesn't um get what it wants, if it doesn't get the that type of, I'll call it free love, is kind of what comes to my mind of when you say hippie mentality, and I'm kind of thinking of a kind of love, um, but you can call it whatever you call it.
Hmm. Like it definitely like believes in a more free idea of love, like a more love is based on freedom and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly why it it just accepts that I'm choosing not to like listen to this part. Like it's just very accepting, and it's almost like it's interesting. Yeah, I never see
Yeah.
this part in my daily life at all.
Yeah, well, it sounded like you. I mean, you just said that it was a new part to you, and I mean, it sounded like it was a blended. It's been blended, so you might
Yeah.
have not seen it because it's working right alongside you.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's it worried about? If if you, let's say you went along with the more rigid part, or if it wasn't blended with you, what's its concern?
This part, it definitely doesn't agree with the other rigid parts rules.
Mhm.
And but it feels almost like a little bit like not scared, but it doesn't want to like fight that battle. And so if it knows that I'm going along with it, it knows that I'm making the wrong decision, but it doesn't intervene. Like it doesn't step in and say, no, this is not who you are. And this is not how you want to
Mhm.
be in relationships. So I think it's worried about, how much influence that other part has over me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I would again just suggest that, because both of these parts are saying here's the right way and here's the wrong way, and I would just try to have a kind of equanimity between them of they both have their goals, they both have what they want, and you know one being right and one being wrong is, I don't know, that's just going to be imbalanced.
Yeah.
So I think the goal is just to be able to listen to them both and respond to them both.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that might be something I have to sit more with, is just kind of like recognizing the contribution of both equally. Because right now it's totally swayed in one direction. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the risk of talking too much, um, I would also assume that there's an exile in there somewhere that they're both aiming to protect.
Hmm. I mean, I could sense that for sure with you saying that,
Yeah.
especially the rigid part, like the aggressively
Mm-hmm.
rigid part with all the rules. Um, the other one, a little bit, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could sense it a little bit.
And what would this part like from you going forward?
All right. See. I think the first thing that it's requesting, which is interesting because I think it's the first request as a part that it's ever made. And it's just requesting for me to know it as distinct from myself. Like,
Wow.
not allowing it to just blend in and just kind of like go under the rug. That even though it's a part that's not a pushy part, it does want to be acknowledged as its own separate kind of energy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe not pushy, but it's certainly powerful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Like, I think it kind of gives the impression that, like, if I'm able to see it as the distinct part it is, it might help to influence me more or have more of an influence on me without, having to push and be pushy on me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ideal.
Interesting.
Sounds like you got your work cut out for you.
For sure. For sure. It's funny though, because I feel like this one might have the answers to the questions that the other one has. This one definitely feels much more evolved than the other part.
Yeah. Well, if it's been more embodied in you, versus kind of pushed away, that could be one reason. Like if you more easily identify with it.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm trying to sense into whether or not it has anything else that it wants to tell me or show me or. I think this part's satisfied with just being recognized for the first time.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other parts that have any questions or concerns about your work here?
The the opposing part is like anxious. I feel it like surging in anxiety because this other part has made itself known. The rigid part is surging in anxiety. It's funny.
Yeah. Is concerned about losing out to it.
Yeah, like I think that it'll lose its power to influence me and keep me, protected or. Yeah.
Yeah, and how are you responding to that? What's your response to that?
I think there's room for both. There's room for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely room for both. There's not just one part's way, but both are important and both need to be heard and understood. So it won't stop being understood.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And you still plan on getting to that list with the rule making part?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It needs it for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Does it feel complete in there? Or?
It does. And after a call two, I'm going to sit more with that part and start going over what it was, those rules and boundaries that it wants to kind of repair,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just examine those with it.
Yeah. But overall, it feels good. Yeah.
Cool. Don't let me keep you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun. All right. Talk soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.